R3, yes, sir.
You see that? It
Yes,
says,
sir. Do the days show?
That's correct. Okay, but where it says 0 days.
3 nays, that means to be yours.
4.
0 A's and 4 nays.
0, 4, 2, 1.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Are there any other additions or corrections? You okay, Tom? Okay. Hearing none, I'm entertaining a motion to approve the minutes, May the 8th as corrected.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Minutes of May 8th are approved. Second, item B, or item A, under old business, is public hearing, continue the property maintenance code.
Yes. You
Ready?
ready?
Entertain a motion to continue public hearing on property maintenance code.
I so moved.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, we're now in public hearing on property maintenance code. Continue.
All right. In front of you guys should have received a proposed code language change, basically addressing our property maintenance code, section 302.4 weeds. In that language, basically, in a short summary, it is clarification to the property owners to let them know that they are responsible for maintaining the property outside of their right-of-way or the right-of-way property itself. There's a lot of confusion sometimes when we talk to citizens. The property line and the right-of-way line is basically the same line in a nutshell. So a lot of citizens believe that they should not maintain the right-of-way when in fact it is their property. The city and local utility companies just have the right to put infrastructure in the right-of-way, but it's still the responsibility of the property owner to maintain that right-of-way and mow it and keep it up. Like if you go, for example, if you go to our GIS, it shows the property line boundaries, but it shows that portion of land that's still their land and it's basically considered right-of-way. So I talked to Patrick about this, and he sent me this language and had to tweak it a little bit to fit our code. Basically adding this to our property maintenance codes to basically clarify that it is your responsibility to maintain it right away.
Any questions from the board?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know where I own out the Eagles Landing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you look at my survey, my actual survey, my survey doesn't go to the street. I'm really not an owner of beyond that sidewalk. I think right now Eagles Landing HOA pays to maintain that, and eventually when we get out there, we'll maintain it because that's just, my husband's a mow freak, you know. But I'm just asking for clarity because I noticed that. I pulled my survey and I'm like, because typically I would have owned on out further. You know what I'm saying? Just like what you said. But this, it's.
I think, like I said earlier, I believe that is still your property. I think MoDOT has control of that state right away.
My legal description shows it's not my property.
It's not?
Mm-mm. So typically my property would be from here to here, and the street would be right next to it, or in fact, maybe even on it. And like you said, there would be an easement. If you look at my lot boundary lines, I don't know, my legal description, my survey stakes stopped long before it. I would say that's a mistake. in the development of the subdivision when it was first done. You know, kind of like the sidewalk is not on the easement, but it's physically on the homeowners, you know, in their yard type deal. So I was just wondering about that, because I saw that and I thought, now that's really strange, because when I was laying out my driveway, I kind of thought I should own further.
Yeah, if you look at a more recent project that planning and zoning has approved, Western Estates Phase 2,
Right,
like Likens Lane, you
right,
know, the street is called out or defined in the right of way.
right,
It's a 60-foot right of way, so you measure from the center line of the road 30 feet in one each direction, and that basically defines the right of way. And, you know, in a subdivision
that's,
like that.
and that's what I thought. I just
Yeah.
thought somehow that got,
Well, you have to go back to the dedication plan to see whether or not, the only thing is that the homeowner association may retain that, but I doubt it.
I don't know why they would have.
Seems like the surveyor just missed off the dedication.
Well, I mean, the homeowners, the HOA is paying to mow it. When we get there, we'll mow it. We're not charging.
You know, like for mine, just use my property as example, you pull it up on GIS, it shows from this point to this point, and it's outside, but, you know, why would I not cut that and maintain it?
Right.
It makes your property look horrible if you don't maintain it.
Exactly.
You know, it's like if you have a hotel or a commercial business, you know, your real estate office, you know, why would you not cut that? I mean, the first impression is a lasting impression, so,
Absolutely. You don't get one of those.
yeah.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Do you want to, so what I'd like for you to do is, being you have this, I'd like to see it with this one.
Let me get with Shelley, because sometimes she said it's easier for her just to give her the updates, and then she do all that, because I've tried that before, and she has her way of doing things. I can check with her.
Is all I want to see is what goes before council.
Okay. All right, we can do that.
That, I don't care what it is, I want to see what council's going to see.
Okay. All right.
I think that's the simplest way to do it. Okay, so at that, I would like to continue this public hearing until we see that.
Okay.
Hearing no other questions, I entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to our next P and Z meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried, so we carry that to the next meeting. Item B, basically this is not continuing the public hearing, because the public hearing was closed last month on the property at 316 and 318 York Street. So what we have in front of us is, as you remember, the board ruled on that piece of property from zoning from R2 to R3, and they ruled not in favor of the change. This does have to go to city council in ordinance form, so you should have in front of you the ordinance prepared that will go to city council. So at this point, first I'm going to ask Tim if he has any updates on it.
Well, I talked to one of the individuals that spoke at the last meeting with some concerns about the proposed zoning. They have informed me that they have purchased that property now, and I basically explained what we were doing tonight. I was bringing this back in ordinance form to the board to review and take it before city council for review as well. I haven't, fact-checked to make sure they are indeed the property owners, but they said they have purchased the property from Steve Grubbs and they have no intentions of rezoning it. So therefore, talking to Patrick, our city attorney, put it in ordinance form because he did inform me that it has to go back before city council. I will put this same ordinance document in front of city council and give them the history about the public hearing and the new information that I received. The purchase has transferred ownership and they do not wish to proceed with the zoning change. If they're the new owners, the application should be null and void. I mean, that's just my professional opinion. I just want them to know the history behind what transpired in front of them.
Having said that, is this transaction of that lot, or that large lot, going to take place fairly?
They said it's a completed deal. And I talked to them earlier before the meeting.
It is done.
That's what the person explained to me over the phone, but I haven't verified that for myself yet.
Okay, so I don't want this to get hung up somewhere, and council does go ahead and makes that change from 2 to 3.
No.
So I would totally suggest that get the approval from that applicant, or that person that actually purchased that property, in a statement that says that they do not want that to change July 3rd.
Like get an email confirmation from them?
Something.
Okay, and I can call the Recorder of Deeds office
Get
tomorrow.
their approval to know that they don't want to make that change.
Okay, I can do
Because
that.
I don't want to do this back and forth thing.
Missouri Home Care Line.
Yes,
Across the street.
yes. I know her first name, but I can't remember. Jenny something.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you can't get anything, I would like for you to send the, because I want the minutes to go with, to council, so they see what this board discussed and why they didn't.
The minutes from the previous meeting
Yeah,
and this
the
meeting.
set of minutes that says that the board did not approve that.
Okay.
And it gives basically some reasons why they didn't. I don't want to get this messed up. Let's leave it like it is. Just if the new owner wants to do something, then they can come in, because this is on a different person. They
Yeah.
didn't own that property.
Yeah, and I asked that she had asked me about the sign remaining out there. I said if we can leave it out there until we get this resolved, so that way there's no confusion or something.
Okay. So, okay, and that's a big thing. I don't want the confusion.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And as I read this, and you all read it too, even if it does go to council, it would appear to me that everything's in it that we did do, okay, in the ordinance, and it was not approved from any zoning from R2 to R3. It's basically the last.
Whereas.
Same place. My question is for learning reasons. When I made that recommendation, should I have stated that in a different way? I know George asked about it. Should I have stated that in a way that it was to be sent to city council just for consideration?
I always want to send something, I will always want a motion that comes out of the planning and zoning in a positive way. So you make a motion to approve, okay? Even though in your mind you don't want to approve it, that allows the board to make that decision. They can vote yes or they can vote no. And it would be a motion to basically make a recommendation to city council to approve a zoning change from R2 to R3. And then the board votes on it. So if they vote in favor, then of course it would make the change. But if they see to it that they don't want to make a change, they can vote no. And that would kill them.
Thank you.
And even though if you make that motion, you can still vote either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because you make a motion doesn't mean you support it or
I'm
don't
not
support
lying.
I always like to see it in an affirmative way, and that's what council will always put. Everything they do that goes onto the docket will be in an affirmative way, and then they make the decision, yes 31?
Yeah, I have no further update. I've been trying to get a hold of DNR to get some information to add to the proposed ordinance change or addition. And I finally was able, well, I've called like 3 or 4 times and they put me through a number and all you can do is leave a message. Haven't got a return call until this afternoon. And, you know, I was out of the office. I actually got a name and a number to call somebody, and I called back, and they were not in the office, so I left a message. So I anticipate speaking with that person tomorrow, and you know, getting the information that I need to start this process. I mean, to move it forward as far as starting a public hearing, because as you may know, in previous meetings I put together a draft ordinance for trailer park, RV camps. And I was just waiting for some information from DNR to finalize that. So again, I'm waiting to actually speak to someone to see what information I need to include into that article to bring it back to you guys. So I anticipate having a public hearing for that change at our next meeting.
Okay. Any questions? Then in the new business, code updates.
Well, that was part of this. I put that down there. That was part of the first one. Yes.
Future projects.
I just want to let you guys know what's going on. Greg Harris, our building inspector, had resigned. So we have a vacancy in the department. So Brian and myself will be filling that void for now. The job was posted several weeks ago. It closed out, I believe, on the 23rd. So we're looking for another qualified person to step into that role. But Brian and I and the rest of the department can fill that void for now. As far as future projects, the Bloom cultivation shop just north of town was contacted by one of their representatives. They want to do an expansion project out front, do like an outside growth deal. I can't recall the gentleman's name, but he said they've done it in other cities, other states. So it's a seasonal thing. They do it once a year, I guess, to get some growth. And I don't know where they take it from there, but basically they are proposing to extend a part of the fence area to grow plants. And I asked the guy, I think it's Matt, I asked him about, the potential of theft or, people breaking in. He said they have the high security fence, camera, surveillance, so they've already, those questions have already been asked by other communities. As you know, that's a CMP district. My question, how does that affect that district, having that outside grow facility out there? So I'll get some more answers, probably talk to you. Mike, get your opinion, what you think.
I thought about that a little bit. I mean, however, that's in the CMP district, that's not in the rules for that. So we'll have to look. We'd have to look to see if it would fall under the conditional use permit for approval. Because I don't believe anywhere in town other than a garden, we do have gardens and residential districts and stuff of that nature, but not a commercial growth. And if you remember back a few years ago, we looked at that there on East Grand. Somebody was going to put in a commercial garden. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at a conditional use.
Yes.
So,
And they never did it.
that never happened.
Yeah.
Everything was done like that. So never happened.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I can see, because just to say yes, you can, it's not going to fit the CMP.
Yeah, and we got time to do it because he said this is, if it were to happen, it'd be next year, next spring or summertime. He just wanted to start the conversations now. And I can share that information with you guys at our next meeting, let you look at it and get your thoughts on it and see what your concerns are as well. So.
I want to just say, not as a member of the PNC, but I find it was disheartening that Greg left us, very disheartened.
Mm-hmm.
From a citizen, but not only, so I work with every single contractor in this town. I don't, it was one I don't work with. And, it's pretty sad.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, if you look at the workforce overall, not just from a city standpoint, but from retail or automotive, it's hard to find people. I mean, it's so competitive. You know,
It's really hard to find good people when you want to micromanage them too.
Yeah.
Very, very hard.
Yeah.
to find those people.
yeah. You know, I can't state why he left. You know, Greg was a good individual. Paul was a good individual. I mean, yeah, you take a big punch in the gut when you lose people like that, because you know their capabilities and their work ethics and you know what they bring to the table. So I was kind of shocked that he left too, but you know, we got the job posted, and hopefully we can find somebody that can replace him. So. On another note, we posted 112 East 3rd Street building as an unsafe structure. There's been a lot of concern about public safety, you know, walking up and down the street. The building is occupied by an individual. There's been some displacement, some movement in the south wall. I don't know if you guys know the history, but I think this happened prior to me starting. That south wall had collapsed once before. So the city took the necessary measures to post it as an unsafe structure for habitation. So we're going to be looking to move that through the dangerous building process, taking it before the municipal or the county judge to actually declare it a dangerous structure. So our plans is to work with Farmers State Banks and all the surrounding property owners about basically barricading it off like the 3rd Street buildings, looking at hiring an engineer to come up with a plan to possibly tear that building down, and then going from there.
What's the difference between that building and all the rest of the buildings in town? Is it that much worse than those other buildings?
The 3rd Street buildings? I mean, they have some similarities as far as what's going on.
Some Paul and Greg?
Yeah. These other buildings, we have a group of people who's trying to raise funds to try to come up with a plan to save those buildings.
But do we just wait till they fall? Or
No. No. There's been some more displacement with those buildings, and they've engaged their engineer for a second opinion. I have not officially heard what that second opinion is, but I will be very concerned about the condition of those buildings.
Well, to me, if one decides to fall and you're across the street,
Mm-hmm.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because that building's not going to implode upon itself. It's going to come. It's going to fall one direction or another, or all directions.
Mm-hmm. But you are correct. But that's a testimony of like how important it is to do property maintenance on your vehicles, your houses, your commercial buildings. You know, having somebody look at, monitor, inspecting. A lot of people sometimes take that for granted when you talk about working in the capacity of a city employee or building inspector. You know, it's all built around safety. You know, you wouldn't want your family going in a building like that and then the potential collapse to happen. I think there was an incident, I think Gina, you're familiar with it, in Iowa. Davenport, Iowa, a building collapsed. I think 7 people were killed or 3 were accounted for. But I mean, there were some buildings in Missouri 2 years ago that collapsed. I mean, yeah.
We got there right after that.
Mm-hmm.
Could I say something? I attended the HPS board meeting that was last week. They talked to their engineer, and since that's not a supported wall on the Eggleston building, he suggested they leave their barricades up, but it's not in danger of collapsing the entire building. It's not a supporting wall. other one is back on the alley. That's the difference between the two buildings, is the one building at 112 East Third has one owner that refuses to do anything, and the other buildings have owners, they've been donated, but they have an owner that is actively pursuing work on the buildings.
On this one, next door, how, because it's a shared wall,
Yes.
what, little bit I know is nothing, but what is the, do you know what the condition of the other building is as far as the wall? Does anybody have any clue how good that building is?
No, I know several years ago, I think Farmer State Bank was interested in purchasing 112 East Third, and they hired an engineer, and we just basically did a walkthrough inspection, and there were some concerns about that shared wall, being exposed if you were to tear down another building. So, with this recent event, the city's going to have to hire an engineer to get their professional opinion of how you tear the building down and preserve the wall itself that's shared between 112 and the neighboring property. So it's just not, we're not just going to hire contractors to tear it down. There's going to have to be some investigative work to say, hey, you got to do X, Y, and Z to make this wall stable.
And is the city going to take on the financial responsibility of this tear down when it's privately owned?
I can't speak for the city. I can tell you this, that I spoke with the owner, and he said he has no financing. He's on a fixed income.
My point being is, how can we as citizens of the city continue to finance tearing down these houses, these buildings? In a house, you kind of get the lot, you can sell a lot and maybe come out further. Well, on something like this, there's no way you would ever come out on that.
No, this is a little bit more involved in depth. Like if you can remember Chestnut Arms, that whole debacle, there was an owner. He too, didn't do the proper maintenance. We had the property torn down. The judge ordered it to be demoed. There was a lien on the property, and the city wasn't made whole on that.
Is there any future recourse on privately where you can actually assess the individual that owns that into the future to recover some of the costs?
The only mechanism I know that we can do is put a lien on the property. Like if we lien a property.
Which means nothing because the property's worth nothing.
Yeah.
That lot's worth nothing, even if it's cleaned up.
What is, let's go back to Chestnut Arms for just a second. So that lot's sold.
Mm-hmm.
Do we recoup any of that money from the sale of that lot? Who owned that lot?
No.
So it wasn't the city, it was an individual.
Yeah, I
Why
think
didn't we get the money?
we were like third or fourth in line. So to answer.
So then the seller, the owner of that property, should not have walked away with one nickel.
I don't know all the details, but I would say that you're right. It shouldn't be.
There has to be a way, because I can remember back years ago when we started with the dilapidated houses and tearing them down, and we were told, I've sat in several meetings and we was told there was no way for the city to ever recoup the money for the tear downs. And there was a way around that because you did that.
Mm-hmm.
You get ownership of the lot. Yes, you spend money to tear it down, but in a residential lot, it may take you some time, but you normally are going to get as much out of a residential lot as it costs you to tear down a building.
Yeah.
Or a single-family house versus the one that you're talking about. So I don't know what legally they can bind together, but that's a huge financial burden on the city to do this. And the tear down's the cheap part. The expensive part is the shoring, like this building, for example. The expensive part is the shoring of the wall. expensive part is what hazardous materials in there that has to be overcome before it can be tore down. So, I don't know, but
I can ask Patrick to see if, is there any way.
there's gotta be some recourse on somebody, somehow, some way. I don't know.
Yeah.
How it
What
works.
do you do? Please try to find out. I mean, I'm not one to take a private individual or a company and make them, wealthy off our tax dollars, so, in any avenue. So I want to get back all of the tax dollars that we can, if possible. I want to do a little research on this.
Even if it's
But.
Are there structural engineer reports on those buildings that would be at all visible to the public?
You can do an information request. Are you talking about the 3rd Street buildings or? Yeah, I believe you can make an information request to get that information through our city clerk, Shelley Blades. And she's a custodian of records, so she will be the one to provide those documents.
And wouldn't a place on Chestnut, wouldn't that be similar, I don't know much about this, but wouldn't it be similar to a bankruptcy to where all the people that had money involved in it would be equally placed after it didn't work like that?
But first, it's the liens. It starts with the liens, and the problem that you are is that the city's liens are way down the line.
Yeah.
Like taxes are right up, yeah.
Yeah.
Bank, And then if there's a HVAC guy or a roofing guy, or, you just start chalking them up, and then when the money runs out, it's not like bankruptcy where everybody gets a little something, no, they just chop you off your legs.
Well, I'm curious a lot, like Hamilton and Chillicothe and these other towns, I know they have buildings that have been just like what we have.
Josiah,
Now, what have they been able to do in order to save those places and not have big holes in the blocks of their downtown?
A lot of times you establish a Main Street, like Cameron Main Street organization, and their whole purpose and intent is to help revitalize the buildings, downtown, taking an abandoned building and getting grants and donations and fixing them up and, making them whole again. We have a Main Street here, but our Main Street is still kind of young and trying to do that. And then you have to struggle with funding, getting volunteers to step up, stepping into the organizations to see these projects through. Sometimes cities donate funds towards, project rehab for buildings. But I think the main important thing is trying to find grants that's out there to help take on the bulk of those responsibilities, financial costs, I should say. We won, talking about demolition, we won that program award from Dilapidated to New from MML and another outfit. A lot of people were calling us, how are you so successful with your program? What do you do? The city's not in it to make money I tore down this house, I'm gonna make $20,000 profit. Our goal is to eliminate the nuisance, get a newer style home onto that property and get somebody in there that's, establish a residency in Cameron. Tomorrow we got 3 properties that closes out for bid through our demolition program. I think the minimum bid is $7,500 per lot. We probably got more wrapped up in it, just the demolition alone. You look at the years we've been mowing it, sometimes we have to write those mowing liens off because we're not going to get that money. It's just basically it's a game. People try to negate their responsibilities to the community, to themselves, their neighbors. They don't want to do anything, so the city has to step in there and be that rescuer, I guess. So.
And I may be wrong, but I think what happened in Hamilton is, I think the Quilt people bought those buildings, and Josiah is the guy that goes in and demos their buildings. And you should see is.
So it's all privately
I
financed.
believe that is.
Are they building new buildings in place?
No, they are restoring those buildings, but I'm pretty sure it's on their own dime. But I've often wondered about Josiah coming in and looking. I wish they would have interest to open up just one store, just one store. You know, when you're going down their main drag, and you look at their railing, that railing that goes down, oh my gosh. It is custom metal railing, it is gorgeous, I called on it. They paid for it. The quilt company paid for all that really for city. You know, it's a, what am I trying to think, handrail, custom handrail. That's gorgeous. And when I was building my building, I called thinking, how much does that cost for my fence out front? You know, when you know those it. I was like, no. But I've often wondered about getting Josiah over here and just seeing, I mean, I think he's the guy that is leading a lot of their construction over there.
I know that, well, some of you may have, the St. Joe Courthouse was completely restored probably 15 or 20 years ago. And I never thought about how they would do something like that. And I know it's very costly. But they went in there and they put red iron. They rebuilt the building on the inside of the old building. They came up with red iron columns and beams and everything like that. And then they had something to reinforce the old building too.
It's all about money.
But that, you know, that's a different story. A lot of historical money, I'm sure, went into that because it was
Yeah,
the county courthouse and everything like that.
and they probably did get grants.
Yeah.
A lot of these buildings and the condition that they're in, it's just due to the lack of maintenance. And, you know,
But you can't go back.
no, you can't. I mean, it's sad that, you know, here you have something that can be a cornerstone in your area or your community, but it's so far gone. You know, who has that type of funding to be able to say, hey, I want to put $1 million into this business or building and restore it?
And it's fine to be private donors or if there's grant money, but, you know, city tax dollars probably has a lot of other things.
Yep.
And one I have to say is one that's spent, happy to spend a lot of money in town, and that's on the portables. They tuck pointed that whole building, and that cost, tuck pointing is not cheap. They did the whole thing, bottom to the top, on all sides. The thing you'll find in town too is, if you go look at your buildings, the brick is different. Some of the buildings are brick, some of them soft brick. The soft brick buildings are the ones that deteriorate the fastest. The mortar is soft also. The mortar gets out between the bricks. That's what's happening over here. And you just can't hack that leather. And it's never been preserved. It's never had anything going on to preserve the leather. So I had other matters, anything to?
Just to bring up, oh boy, the RV parks. You know, we have several mobile home parks in town who are storing or having camper trailers in that park. And I've talked to Mike about this, and they're not zoned for that. You know, so we're trying to address that. And I look back in our ordinance dating back to 1972, so I went in the vault, and it changed from C2 to M4, which is mobile home parks. I didn't see any language in there would permit people to put trailer campers in that mobile home park. I looked at two old ordinances, and one of them, it was the whole entire document of the zoning ordinance definition. I went page by page, The only thing I seen there was a definition of a trailer, like a camper trailer. And these documents are so brittle, I wouldn't dare trust putting it through the copier because it probably could not come out the same. So, there's a problem with, trying to address those issues and talk to the property owner, say, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. And, so this person directed me to look back in the ordinance, and I did. And I told Mike, like I said, I went back to 1972, and there was no provision in there that allowed them to do that. Maybe it was a one-time deal, but it's not a permitted use to allow RV trailers in mobile home parks, because it clearly defines what a mobile home is. RV park, there's a clear definition of what the purpose and
What was the definition of mobile home?
basically a mobile home, I can't quote it word for word, a mobile home that's brought onto the site on a trailer axle, and you place it, take the wheels off, put skirting on. So basically, yeah,
So
modular.
they talk about tying it down?
Yeah, strapping it down, yes. Yeah, anchoring it down. And,
So turn it into real estate.
Well, I just want to make sure that, because we use the word mobile home two different ways.
Yes.
mm,
When it's that say travel trailer, you say mobile home, not
Mhm.
mobile home.
a travel trailer, when you say travel trailer, it's like you hook it up to a hitch and you pull it from point A to
Right,
point
that's the
B.
giveaway that it's not
Yeah.
a mobile home. But
Yeah.
We also talk about, hey, he's got an RV or a mobile home,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different from, so I just want to make sure the definition.
Yeah.
Mobile home.
Yeah.
So,
Same way with a manufactured home or a modular home. A manufactured home is built off site and then put together. To me, the same way as a modular home.
It has a VIN number.
Yeah,
It has a VIN number.
yeah,
It's not the same materials used.
yeah. And there's state standards. Yeah, yeah. So, just to give you guys a heads up,
So have you approached people and then you got feedback saying, well, wait a minute. got
Yeah.
some
What was your
pullback.
first clue to
yeah. Yeah, we try to work with people and educate them. Like, hey man, I'll help you any way I can, or, but a lot of time we get pushback, just for doing our jobs. And
It's a little complicated from your point. At least I think I have seen it where I think I've seen it for kind of more, becoming more ingrained or whatever, that
mhm,
people have been there for some time now.
You just kind of used to seeing it.
Yeah, I'm used to
I mean,
seeing it
think about it.
before,
Yeah.
so it's something that does.
yeah. And like I said, we do everything in our power to work with people. I know we get a bad rap, bad name sometimes. It's like, these
I
are.
thought initially there was a day limit to that if you use a spot like that, you had only so many days before you had to move it.
I think like a temporary structure, like 180 days, that's what's defined in the building codes. But that's one of the reasons why we're trying to get ahead of the curve by creating a RV
Sure.
zoning ordinance to where we can address stuff like this. And you set parameters, say, hey, you got to be X amount, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and that way you maintain the characteristic of the neighborhood. Everything looks clean, everything looks nice. Like I said, we'll do everything in our power to work with people, but it's a two-way street. You can't want and not expect to give.
Well, I'm sure that Wall State Park is probably full too,
Mhm.
as well. And those people typically, they're just coming in to stay a few days. When I think of a tractor trailer, and they're bringing their money in, they're probably shopping at grocery stores. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, if they're out to this Wall State Park, they're also paying park fees and,
Yeah.
There's a
and I know that-
limitation on that, but you
Yes.
don't say or something.
yeah, I don't even know what it is, but I don't think it's longer than a
Yeah.
week.
I don't know what that is.
I think it's short.
But I've researched and I've not seen any other municipalities or cities that have actual ordinances for RV parks. Well, we'll be like one of the first in this area to do it. So,
Well, I'll find out what the state parks do.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Steve?
I have one other thing.
Yes, Tom?
And this is just my omnibus comment. And this is not my responsibility, I realize. But over on the prospect side of the smoke shop,
Mm-hmm.
we have head-tall noxious weeds growing up right there. And I'm just trying to help the city. I'm thinking that is really kind of a bad spot.
You talking about on this
Yeah, right
east side?
by the bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have somebody look at it.
You know, considering everything else that's there, I don't think we need noxious weeds.
Don't be cutting that down from smoke.
Somebody
stop-
Somebody stop me.
Oh man.
Thank you,
No, I'll look into it.
thank you.
One of the things I saw that, in the last months, and I know Tim spends a ton of time on this, and that's where it says festivals will be taking a lot of time. And it does, because Tim comes into my place on the day of, hours before, because all the information is not in. Just kind of, I want to say this to you, that I did this back years ago through the chamber, and I had the same problem.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you how I fixed it. I set a date. If it's 2 weeks out, I have to have the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have the paperwork, you don't have the event. And I got a lot of pushback, but you know what? It can happen, because if you want to have the event, they can hand you the paperwork. It creates you work, it takes time away from my job to sit down and read through that. And you know what we do, we don't take a lot of time,
Mm-hmm.
but to actually sign off on that stuff. And there's no sense in that, to come up to the last few minutes of the day. And I can tell you, at one time, I stopped the event because they didn't have all the paperwork that they needed. And the thing was, in this particular instance, they had no plan to have it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have it. So I would highly suggest that you put a timeline on it.
Okay.
Save yourself some work, because if you're gonna do it, you know today, in 3 months, that you're gonna have it, and there's no reason why you can't have all that done, especially if you've done it over and over again, you know exactly what you're gonna have to do. And the insurance, I don't know whether it's possible and what you even think about this, but I know when I did it for the chamber, I had insurance that my policy, I did it once a year. I renewed my policy, and in that policy, I put everything that I was gonna do, and I listed the additional insurance right on it. That piece of paper came to the city hall, to the city clerk, and it was kept in file, so it's a blanket throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
So that would save you time, it would save the individuals putting on the events a lot of time, to have to go back just every time to get the insurance coverage.
That's a good idea. I think that one of the things that we wait on is the insurance. You know, because like we're self-insured through MIRMA, and they require that endorsement sheet. So a lot of people, they always miss putting that as part of their packet. And I say we need an endorsement sheet, and then we got to go through the whole process of getting that, chasing that down.
But we actually, Robert O'Connor was our city clerk at the time, and I just went every year when I renewed it. And it was all put into that policy, and I brought her a copy of it, and she had it for the year. And she knew whether it was just events or whether it was it was like the chamber was doing it, like we did a blanket umbrella for alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Like,
And I think you just gotta communicate with those people in advance, that when you set their deadline, you need to set it.
mhm.
I mean, they'll only not have their event once, and they, but I would personally like to see the chamber step back into some of that. I mean, as my chamber, I feel like part of what they should be doing, and I understand why they quit.
Mhm.
But those days are long gone, and it's time to come back together and help again.
Anyway, I have nothing else. Anybody else? Okay. I'm gonna take a motion to adjourn.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.